Hello, everybody. My name is Dinesh Renganathan. I graduated from BMSIT in 2013 as a mechanical engineer. After I graduated from BMSIT, I pursued my master's degree in automotive engineering from Clemson University's International Center for Automotive Research, after which I took up my first job as a steering test engineer at Gokan America. We worked with many clients. The client that I worked most with was Honda R&D. So we did a lot of vehicle testing for them on the proving ground and also in the lab. And after I did that for about 2.5 years, I changed to my current job, which is I'm working as steering test engineer at Bosch, but now on a component level. So now I test the components and the steering system for many different customers, which includes Honda, Toyota, BMW, and many others. I hope I can share my experiences and insights with you guys and answer some of your questions. So hopefully help you with your career choice or your education choice. One of the first questions you guys asked me was how I chose my master's program and the university. So I did a lot of research before I picked Clemson, but I applied to multiple different universities and I did get admits from a few of them. And there are actually quite a few that have good automotive programs. I think Michigan Tech, Michigan University of Michigan, and also Purdue, Clemson, and there's quite a few. But Clemson was the only one that had a specific program called Deep Orange, where along with your master's degree for 2 years, you also work with one OEM and basically go through the entire product development life cycle of a car. So for my master's program, I worked with Toyota for 2 years. And during the course of my master's, I also developed a prototype vehicle for the year 2020. It was called the Scion U-Box. So when I saw this as an opportunity in Clemson, that's the reason I picked it. And as far as why I picked automotive, I always was very interested in cars and in bikes in general, about automotive, the field itself. And during my bachelor's in BMSIT, we also worked a lot on RC cars, where we did a lot of RC racing, me and a group of two or three other engineers. So it just spiked my interest in that. That's why I picked automotive engineering. And yeah, that's why I chose Clemson. um, During my master's degree, obviously we had to choose a field of a major basically, and I had three options. One was powertrain, the other was vehicle testing and vehicle performance, and the last one was manufacturing. So the one that interested me most was vehicle performance and vehicle dynamics. So I chose that as my major, and that's basically the main reason of how my career progressed, was that choice. So when I made that choice, all my course structures were very guided towards that, towards vehicle performance. So I learned a lot about how a vehicle functions, what the vehicle dynamics and handling aspects are, and how to tune those, and how to correct any issues with your handling or your suspension, your steering, any of these components. So that defined what my career would progress like. And after that, my first job was at Honda R&D as a steering test engineer, and I enjoyed driving the car on the test track a lot. So I got to drive a lot of fun cars, a lot of competitive vehicles, and a lot of high speed, high dynamics, high lateral G driving. So that's something that I enjoyed a lot, and so that's what defined my career progression. And then my final choice of taking my job at Bosch was mainly because I worked quite a lot on a vehicle level, but I felt like I needed to gain more knowledge on an individual component level and make it a broad spectrum where I know how multiple different OEMs work, not just one single one. So that's what led me to my current job at Bosch. As a test engineer at Bosch, usually I'm assigned to more than one program at a time. And depending on the stage, the programs are usually in one of three stages. It's either in the design validation stage, process validation stage, or series support stage. So if a project is in the design validation stage, then my job as a test engineer is to understand if the design is going to meet all the different performance requirements that's internally set by Bosch and also given to us by our customers. Now I have to validate these requirements by creating test cases, either mechanical or electrical tests, and then performing these tests and understanding how the component performed, and then report the same to the customer and to internal management. That's on a normal day-to-day basis what I would be doing. Now, a job of a test engineer usually comes in a sine phase. So usually you have phases where you have a lot of work and then you have little less work. So it's like a sine wave. Every time there's a component build, like build dates, at those times you have a lot of work that comes in and you'll be doing a lot of validation. And then as the work goes down, you're preparing for your next phase. That's when you have a lot more of preparation and planning and component ordering as you wait for the parts to come in again. And then you repeat this. So basically, you do design validation. Then once the design is validated, you go again, validate the production process. That's process validation. And then once the parts are out in the field and the customer is putting them in vehicles, you do what is called a series support. There you address any issues that the customer is facing as the parts are in the field. So that's on a day-to-day what you would do as a test engineer at Bosch. As a test engineer, the skills that you most need on a day-to-day basis to carry out your work successfully go a lot into understanding the mechanics of different machines, to understand how the gear system works, to understand the gear ratios, to understand how this would impact the performance of the gear, the loads, the load transfer paths. So these are the main mechanical concepts that you would need to be strong with. So I would say kinematics of machines or strength of machines. These are all the subjects that would help a lot with understanding how these different components work. And then obviously it requires a lot of analysis skills, where you look at the data to understand what's actually happening in the steering gear and how you can troubleshoot or understand how to fix these issues. It could be a design flaw, or it could be just a production quality issue. Understanding like how you can come up to that as a solution is the biggest job as a test engineer. And then obviously there's a lot of planning involved with any test phase that you need to execute. So being able to plan well in advance and be able to order the components and exactly the lead times and understanding all that is the biggest job as a test engineer. The work culture at Bosch is actually one of the best I've ever experienced. Bosch really prides itself on diversity and inclusion, and also with a work life balance that they strive very hard to maintain and make sure that they have enough headcount, enough people to be able to take the workload successfully without causing one or two people to be overworked and lead to like burnout or anything like that. So they try very hard to make sure this is the case. And I would say that I've enjoyed my time at Bosch a lot because one, the management has been very open to new ideas, and even if it's coming from the smallest member of the team or the newest member of the team, and I think that leads to a lot of innovation in general in the teams and within the company. So I would say the work culture at Bosch is really driven by your interests and by your willingness to join the team and perform together. So the part of my job that I find the most challenging is working with people. So as a test engineer, you're always collaborating with many different departments, and you're collaborating with the design department, the project management side, and also the technical project leads. So you're working with multiple different people at the same time and trying to make sure that you deliver a product that is not going to fail in the field under all the different load cases that it's going to experience. So, but at the same time, different departments have different deliverables. They're looking to either successfully launch on time, or they are looking to make sure the design is foolproof for the future. But at the same time, you're trying to understand if it will meet all the requirements that the customer has and that you have internally, and that you make a safe product. So it's a very challenging job to work with all of these people and the different goals that everybody has. But you have to make sure that you convince and you keep your head straight, that you know what you need to do as a test engineer is make a safe product. So as a test engineer, what I like the most is the fact that everything is data driven. There is no let's say theories or concepts without data to back it up. So as a test engineer, you must always have data before you can make a theory behind it. And this aspect is what I enjoy the most, is to look at data and understand what the data is telling you. And this should clearly prove the mechanism or the concept exactly through data. And that's what I enjoy the most. One example of a situation where I was confronted by a problem that really tested my engineering know-how and which caused me to go back to my basics and open up my textbooks and read again, was when we had a failure in one of our tests, which we were not expecting to see. It was something completely unexpected. It was a design that had been validated. It was a production process that was validated, but a completely unexpected failure, and none of us could understand why. And the data completely was like it didn't make any sense. There was no reason why the test was failing. And it took me a lot of like going back and reading the old books and understanding how the load was transferring to figure out that there was an interference between two parts that was completely from our test setup. There was a mistake in the way we set up the jig, and that caused the whole failure. And it was not on the data because we were not measuring the loads from the actual test jig. And this is something that led to an improvement actually, because we understood that this can happen and this is a failure that we should be detecting and fixing as a test procedure before we even test multiple components with the same setup. So it was an experience too, for sure. Something that I would like to share with all of you as an alumni from BMSIT and as a mechanical engineer is that when I decided to pursue my master's in the US in automotive engineering, there was not a lot of useful information that I was able to get. It was a little difficult to understand which universities were the best to pick, and was it a field that had jobs? Was the market good? Would I be able to get a job after I graduated? It was, and what is the next thing in the industry for automotive industry, and what should I be studying? It was a little tricky, and I would have to admit I was a little lucky that the field I chose turned out that I was able to find a job in the same field while I was graduating. But I would like to make sure that you guys are aware that it is currently not the easiest field in the US right now, but there are still obviously opportunities available. So I would say pick your field of your major basically with a lot of caution, and understand what the industry is doing as you are going to take up your master's degree, so that you graduate with a major which actually loves you to work in the industry. And one example of this would be autonomous driving, and anything to do with the same. For example, autonomous path planning or vision systems or sensor fusion. These are all very very exciting new opportunities that are coming up in the automotive industry, and there's a lot of openings for the same. Less, I would say, less opportunities as far as traditional mechanical jobs in the industry right now, in the automotive field at least. So if you are still planning to do your masters in automotive, then make sure that you are geared towards that industry that you're studying in. So if you guys have any questions that are more directed exactly towards what I do in on a specific topic or something like that, or any questions in general about the automotive industry here in the US or anything like that, or even Clemson, feel free to reach out to me directly, either on LinkedIn or through Shubham or some of the other people who are doing the alumni work at BMSIT right now. I would be more than happy to talk to you. And you can also check out some of the other things that I have on my LinkedIn page, might give you information too. All right. It was really nice talking to all of you. Thank you.